Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Feeding the Curious Mind. My name's John Pullen and I'm a writer of fiction and non-fiction books. Antarctica is the remotest continent on the planet. There are a few science stations there now, but there's not any sort of local community because the conditions are too harsh. We want to sort of think about who might have been the first person to set foot on Antarctica, and that's not an easy question to answer. It may surprise you that the first person to predict such a continent was back in the 3rd century CE, Common Era, and that was a chap called Marianus of Tyre. He called it Antarctic. Now, the snow and the ice of Antarctica is not the continent itself. Antarctica has solid ground beneath the ice. So to set foot, you need to not step on the ice shelf or islands. So who would have been the first? Well, people like Captain Cook, who sailed around the world, would have sailed around Cape of Good Hope at the end of South Africa, or Cape Horn at the end of Chile, and he would have been within 150 miles of Antarctica, but never went further south. In 1820, a Russian expedition officially recognized Antarctica as a continent, but there's no evidence that they actually went ashore onto the continent itself. There are other reports in a year or so after of people investigating that area and going ashore, but we believe most of them either went ashore on the ice shelf or on icebergs or floating islands, that sort of thing. It comes down to a sealer in 1821, someone by the name of Captain John Davis, who we believe has supplied evidence that he could well have been the first person to set foot on Antarctica itself. And at this point, I'm going to read you the evidence. The evidence comes in the form of the ship's log entry for that day that Davis would have written. It's not in plain English, but I think you'll understand the gist of it as we go on. Commences with open cloudy weather and light wind standing for a large body of land in the direction southeast at 10 a.m. Close in our boat, and we sent her ashore to look for seals at 11 a.m. The boat returned but found no sign of seal at noon. Our latitude was 64 degrees 1 minute south. We stood in a large bay, the land high and covered entirely with snow. The wind is coming round to the north and eastward with thick weather. We tacked the ship and headed offshore. At 4 p.m, fresh gale and thick weather with snow. It ends with strong gales at east-northeast. Concluded to make the best of our way for the ship. I think this southern land to be a continent. That is the evidence of John Davis of spending 1 hour on the continent. If we want to be absolutely sure who could have been the first person or people to go ashore, we have to go 70 years into the future when scientists went ashore to actually do some experiments. So it's a little bit still open, the question, but personally it looks like maybe John Davis spent that first hour on Antarctica.